The concept of homeostasis. Okay, so homeostasis is process of maintaining biological stable constant condition inside a living organism through physiological process. Okay, so the keyword is homeostasis is process to maintain our internal environment. Okay, so internal environment that refer is physical factors, example biologic pressure, body temperature. Okay, and then chemical factors. Okay, chemical factors, example blood glucose level. And so today I want to give example about the blood glucose level. Okay, so what is important of homeostasis? Okay, so what is what we say the process to maintain, okay, during when our body in exchange environment, okay, for this one, or animals who live in the extreme environment such as desert, and also for ice, okay, glacier and so on. Okay, so important is enable adaptation of organism to the changes of external environment. Okay, number 2, constant internal environment enables a chemical reaction to occur in the cells and enable organism to live in different habitats, okay, with a wider range of environment. Okay, so like this one. And homeostatic mechanism involve regulatory mechanism which based on negative feedback mechanism. Okay, so the homeostasis control system involve 3 components. Okay, for the first one is receptor, the 2 is control center, and then effector. Okay, so the cycle is like this. Okay, so when there are what we say the variables or the imbalance, okay, factors in our body, okay, for chemical factors or physical factors, okay, so receptor will detect. Okay, for physical factors or chemical factors, okay, such as the blood glucose level. For physical factors and chemical is the pH, okay, whatsoever. Okay, so it will detect by receptor, and then receptor will send impulse to control center, and control center translate the impulse and then send the impulse to the effector, so effector will take action to correct the physical factor or chemical factor and then return to the normal. Okay, so what's function of homeostatic components? Okay, for receptor, detect a particular stimulus of changes in physical and chemical factors. Okay, and send impulse to control center at a central nervous system. Okay, as or CNS, okay, for example, brain, spinal cord, and so on. Okay, example for receptor is receptor in our scene, okay, sense of touch, taste, bud, smell receptor, and so on. Okay, thermoreceptor, okay, chemoreceptor, and so on. Okay, the example. Okay, so number 2, control center. Okay, for control center, function is receive and translate impulse from receptor. Okay, example control system, CNS or brain or spinal cord. Okay, so what control center do? So it is sent impulse to effector. Okay, and then effector receive impulse from control center and produce response or corrective mechanism action through negative feedback mechanism. Okay, so the effector will restore the condition back to normal. Okay, so example effector is muscle cell or glands. Okay, so this negative feedback mechanism. Okay, so whatever change from normal condition stimulate control mechanism. Okay, so to prevent any further changes. Okay, so negative feedback, the keyword is the correction mechanism. Okay, so we see if the normal level any change, whatever increase or decrease. Okay, so if we level increase, the correction mechanism will decrease and then return to the normal. Okay, so that's we call it a negative feedback. So the one of the homeostasis that occur in our body, okay, there are the metabolism of carbohydrate. Okay, so the metabolism of carbohydrate is the control in the glucose concentration in our body. Okay, so the homeostasis, which is mean that to maintain the environment in our body, especially in glucose concentration in the body. Okay, so the normal glucose concentration in the body is between 90 to 120 mg in our blood. Okay, and as you know, glucose is needed as fuel for energy production, especially in the brain tissue. Okay, so boleh dikatakan glucose ini sangat diperlukan untuk menghasilkan energi, okay, tenaga, dan especially untuk tissue brain. So glucose is the one of subunit for carbohydrates. That means carbohydrate is really need in our brain tissue. Okay, so normally the glucose concentration will drop or rises, okay, because they has the control. Okay, the control in our body when our body is high level of glucose, so our insulin will secreted to maintain the blood glucose concentration, that to maintain to the normal concentration of blood glucose. And when we are not enough glucose intake, but depend on our body, so we can get also energy from glycogen. Okay, so glycogen will convert, okay, by the glucagon. Okay, so will convert to glucose. Okay, so remember the process of glucose to glycogen, okay, which we call it glycogenesis. And when glycogen are convert to glucose, we call it glycogenolysis. Okay, that are two process you must remember. Okay, so let me discuss about the control in glucose. Okay, when we have meal and when we exercise. Okay. Okay, so let's see. The glucose is needed as fuel for energy production, especially in the brain tissue. Okay. So if the glucose concentration drops or rises, it can lead to serious psychological consequence. Okay, so let's see in this what we say this diagram. Okay, what happened to the glucose level after we have meals? Okay, so the glucose level in the body usually increase after meal due to the carbohydrate breakdown. Okay, so the level usually drops if a person not eaten. Okay, not eaten the okay, so let's just see the diagram. Observe the blood glucose level after Ali has taken a meal. Okay, so the scale in the above diagram indicate the level of blood glucose. Okay, see, what do you observe? The the blood glucose increase from the normal. Okay, so that's a normal, the normal in the of the blood glucose. Okay, increase on the normal. Okay, so what happened? The pancreas will secrete insulin, and so the glucose will convert to glycogen in a muscle or liver. Okay, so the blood glucose return to the normal. Okay, so we repeat again. The insulin is secreted. So the target organ of insulin is the liver. Okay, so glucose is converted to the glycogen. So now what happens to the glucose level is going to the normal. Okay, so return to the normal. That is the metabolism of carbohydrate. So we also call it is a negative feedback mechanism. Okay, so insulin initiate the liver and muscle cell to be more permeable to the absorbed glucose. When someone has not eaten for some time or during fasting and performing exercise, the glucose level in the blood will drop. Okay, so let me see what happened when this man exercise. Okay, see, what do you observe? Okay, so the blood glucose level falls because glucose is need to give energy for this man. Okay, so what do you see happen? The pancreas secrete glucagon, so use glycogen in the liver to process, convert to glucose, and so the level of glucose will going to the normal. Okay, so the target organ of glucagon is only liver. Okay, so liver is the place that the glycogenolysis happen. Okay, so glycogen convert to glucose. As a result, the glucose level returns to normal. Okay, so look at us a graph. We see the fluctuation of glucose level in the body. Okay, let's see. After some time, the glucose level continues to drop below normal level after point A. You see, after point A, so it drops to below to the normal. Okay, and this will activate the secretion of glucagon and thus helping insulin. Okay, so that the point B glucose level returns to normal. Okay, so the two hormones have opposite action, so they are push-pull effect. So that means insulin only secrete by pancreas when the glucose is high level. Okay, and the glucagon secrete when our blood glucose is below normal.